Welcome back, Oscars Republics, your Coruscant Role Police Chief APGAINS. Today I wanted to talk about a question that's been popping up in the Discord a couple of times. Happens on stream too, but obviously we stream less, so it doesn't happen as much. Um, the question was about originally, is Afra still viable post Datacron and stuff like that? But I've kind of adopted the question. I want to move it a little bit broader because it has broader implications for farming in general, which I think are very useful for players in the early to mid game to kind of be cognizant of, just to understand how these mechanics are working. Um, so as old as Galactic Legends have been, there's been the debate versus Galactic Legends versus everything else, right? Now, obviously, 1-to-1, Galactic Legends are going to be the strongest teams in the game for the most part. Obviously, some of them have counters, some of them don't have counters, yada, yada, yada. And if we go to the Afra question, Jabba the Hutt, you could auto with Afra and the Datacron. The Datacron's now gone. Afra has lost a lot of viability. Most of that viability loss was in end game, so early to mid game players, Afra is still, pretty pretty powerful. Um, I'm not gonna lie, but it's not gonna be full auto max bannering Jabba teams anymore. And that kind of brings us to a question of these Galactic Legends take a long time, so what's the right ratio between Galactic Legends and these teams that we're going to talk about? And what are the pros and cons? Now, pros of Galactic Legends, obviously, they're powerful. Cons, they take forever. Um, I have always subscribed to a theory of backbone over Galactic Legends. It's proved to be immensely successful. It's kind of hard to find people who disagree with the strategy, but I'll talk about some disagreements as well here in just a second. So I'm sure all of you guys know, who've watched any of my live streams, any roster reviews, any blah blah blah, what the backbone teams are. But essentially, backbone teams are described as non-core 8 teams, so non-teams that are your core 8 teams for the early game roster that you have to have, that are going to kind of carry your account, right? The backbone teams are a step up in power, but also a step up in, how difficult they are to farm, right? So examples are Maul. The Maul team is fantastic. Now it's going to be useful in the new raid. Star Killer, same thing. Malgus, same thing. Radis, same thing. Jedi Knight Luke, same thing. Afra, same thing. Obviously lost some viability, but still good. Grand Inquisitor, same thing. Tuskens are kind of a flex here. I have them in the list. I'm going to take them off or leave them on depending on how good they are in the new raid. We haven't really needed to worry about PvE for many years in this game, but if the new raid is all that they say it's going to be and the Tuskens are as powerful as they say it's going to be, this is going to be one of those weird non-PvP flex backbone teams, if that kind of makes sense. And then the new one, of course, is Cal, and we have absolutely no idea how good the Cal team is going to be, what the Cal team is going to be, because we don't even have our last requirement. We don't have Tarful in the game. I put Clone Wars Chewbacca to show Tarful. We have his kit, obviously, but he's not in the game yet. And then, of course, we have, oh my God, why am I forgetting the terrorist name? Saw Gerrera, who's still coming. So those are the backbone teams as constitutes or as currently exist in the game. Obviously, comparing them to Galactic Legends, the Galactic Legends most of the time are going to be more powerful than these. There can be an argument made in certain matchups because certain Galactic Legends have obvious weak points. Um, but if we're talking about the pros of these teams over Galactic Legends, I think we should start with Afra, because Afra is the most boom bust example of how these teams function. Afra with the Datacron, I was full autoing most Galactic Legends. I couldn't do JMK, but I could do Lord Vader. I could do SLKR sometimes, depending on how strong the SLKR's offense was. I could beat C's, I could beat JMLs easily. I could obviously full auto Jabba's. The Afra team with Datacron is fantastic. It's lost viability, but still going to be an important team in the roster going forward. So the reason I want to use Afra as an example of kind of the ebbs and flows if you're Thrawn, or the pros and cons if you're a normal human being. Um, Without Datacrons, because most people don't like Datacrons, viable. You're going to beat some stuff. Malgus doesn't have a Datacron, but you're beating up JMLs, right? And now you have access to a ship, but we're going to leave ships out of this for the meantime. Starkiller, you're beating Rays. Obviously, there's new Ray comps that exist. Maul, you're beating kind of everything. Not quite everything at the upper levels, but Maul is kind of like that. He's under the Starkiller, under the Malgus. He's more of that Afra territory where he doesn't have a Datacron right now. But you're going to beat a lot of stuff. I mean, you're going to kind of wipe the floor with a lot of teams, and they're going to give you some exceptional defensive versatility in the early and mid game, depending on when you happen to get them, obviously. It's kind of hard to get these teams in the early games. This is more mid-game players. But as you progress towards the mid-game, obviously something you want to kind of plan for. Jedi Knight Luke, same thing. Obviously, he mostly flex into a JML team, but even without it, you can split them up into two separate teams and get some good viability out of that. The Grand Inquisitor does some amazing stuff. Tuscans, of course, remain to be seen in PvE, and then we don't really know much about Cal. So going back to the Afra example, you have good offensive defensive viability. It takes less time than a Galactic Legend. You can usually it's about 2.5. I'm a little I've been running these tests on all of the accounts that I have access to, that you guys are running, just to kind of monitor your guys' progression, stuff like that. And I find that per Galactic Legend, you can get 2 to 2.5 backbone teams for per time it takes you to get a Galactic Legend. It would be more like if it's older teams, like now that the Grand Inquisitor is slowly starting to become fully accelerated. Starkiller obviously fully accelerated. Once Malgus becomes a little bit easier to farm and stuff like that. Same thing with Maul. Well, I guess Maul's already pretty, he's already improving grounds. I think that number might rise to maybe it's 2.5 to 3 as opposed to 2 to 2.5 backbone teams per Galactic Legend. But the one kind of outlier thing that I'm not a huge fan of, but definitely helps if you're one of those punch up players. Like, I'm not gonna front with you guys. I'm on your side. I don't datacron. These are my datacrons right now. A couple days ago, there was one extra one. It was the Afra, so I had a couple total. I don't datacron. But backbone teams tend to be more wide than the Galactic Legends, right? The Galactic Legends obviously get a lot of focal point, and the new team, the new hotness or whatever, tends to get the datacrons. But if you go after these backbone teams, yes, you're getting less one-on-one viability than a Galactic Legend, but you're getting much wider. In the mid game, being wide is incredibly important, as you guys all know. But it gives you more more rolls of the dice, if that's if you can kind of imagine that. It gives you more rolls of the dice on catching a Datacron, right? Same thing with having the core 8 teams, right? You don't need to go into Datacrons, right? Like I'm trying to go hard in Conquest. Obviously, I've been busy, so I'm not going super hard. But I'm trying to go hard in Conquest with a Conquest character because good. But I'm not really doing the Datacron nodes like I used to back when the Datacrons were, you know, I don't know, less old, and I was like, why not? Um, but if you're wide, meaning you have your backbone teams, you have your core teams, occasionally you do something like catch an Afro Datacron that gives you crazy viability. Maybe you catch a 3PO and Chewie Datacron that gives you, Galactic Legend beating potential. Right? Maybe you catch a Mara Jade Datacron that comes around. I think there's one of those right now, actually. So being a little bit wider gives you more opportunities to kind of catch those off meta Datacrons that turn your core or your backbone teams into those Galactic Legend level teams. Now, obviously, you cannot forego Galactic Legends forever, which is why I tend to subscribe to the, core 8, GL ship Galactic Legend or Galactic Legend GL ship. So like you go core 8 and you go JMK Executor, you go Executor JMK into JML into Profundity, or into Profundity into JML, whatever you might want. Or you go Lord Vader or SLKRC or whatever it is you want to do, right? Obviously, I've been a lot more liberal with farming these days because people just want to have fun and experiment, and you can get wide, and that's totally fine. But you cannot, and this I will die on this hill because it's absolutely true. You cannot just go Galactic Legend to Galactic Legend to Galactic Legend to Galactic Legend, because even if you're up 3 to 4 Galactic Legends, you're still at a massive disadvantage to the person who's gone a full core 8, full backbones out the butt, has the ships, and has 1 or 2 or 3 Galactic Legends, maybe total or maybe less. Like if you have 5 GLs and someone's got 2 + 6 backbone teams, core 8 ships out the butt, like you're not winning that battle, right? So you need that width. The same reason you need the height from Galactic Legends. You need the width. Yeah, farm your Sith ships, guys. You need the width from the core and the backbone teams. So in summation, I don't know how long I've been talking here because I don't have access to my OBS. There it is. Let me tab out and see it. In summation, please, I keep seeing people kind of being like, oh, I don't really care about Datacrons, or you're going to lose viability, or farm a team that's going to give you good long-term value that's not going to take forever to farm, especially if they tend to, like, don't start with Afra, obviously. But like if it's Radis for Profundity, or if it's Malgus for ship and character viability, if it's Star Killer for ease of access and width, if it's Maul for GAC viability plus raids, whatever it is. I beg of you guys to farm the backbone. And I know a lot of them are kind of gated behind proving grounds, but the thing is, like, if you can beat the proving grounds, the crystal cost to refresh proving grounds is cheaper than it was when, back in the day when I had to farm those characters by using the 600 crystal for 5, right? And you can, I mean, yeah, it's actually faster. I mean, it's actually much faster to do proving grounds. It's just you have to do it all at once. It's like paying your bills, yearly as opposed to every month. Like obviously it seems like a lot, but usually you're getting some sort of discount. So don't be afraid of proving grounds. Don't be afraid to take pauses from GLs to do ships or to do core or to do backbone. I promise you're going to get value in the long run and you're going to thank me. Um, I got to get back to work. As always, I love you and I will see you later.